Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Gigi, and I appreciate everyone's collective interest in Itasca's fire prevention and your willingness to participate in tonight's lecture. Please do not feel obligated to take any notes of the lecture that I'll be giving you today. We are recording um, this seminar, and the video will be uploaded onto YouTube for everyone's reference. In tonight's lecture, we will be covering the following: how education, enforcement, and engineering relate to fire prevention, how are we enforcing fire code in the village of Itasca, how the current fire codes are applied to established occupancies and new occupancies, so pre-existing buildings and new buildings. What tests determine the fire ratings of building components and materials? How do the fire tests and ratings apply to the inspection and code enforcement? What are characteristics of unsafe structures in the city of Itasca? And what constructed buildings pose the most significant hazards for conflagration and fire spread? And Itasca's current plans to review structure controls to improve safety and the unsafe structures in our area. So, what is education, enforcement, and engineering? In fire prevention, it's the traditional 3 E's. We have education, engineering, and enforcement equal fire prevention. The goal of fire prevention is to decrease unwanted ignition and limit the spread of fire after an unwanted ignition. And for some of you, you may be confused with fire suppression being part of it, meaning putting out a fire. That is not part of either education, engineering, or enforcement. Education is probably the one that most of you are familiar with, which are our community safety programs. So, for example, if you've ever had a home visit, if you've ever gone onto our website and scheduled a home visit for us to come out, inspect your residence, check the fire alarms, carbon monoxide, that is one of our community safety policies. Also, the holiday reminders, like you see every Thanksgiving, we put out material for grease fires. Being Thanksgiving, grease fires super common during that time of the year. Most of you have probably been to our open house at the fire department, or we may have visited your kids during a school visit. It is our goal to introduce fire safety to our community, to its residents at the earliest age possible, so we can emphasize and have our citizens growing up with a fire prevention mindset. And also all our media material. So if you've ever gone to our website and found any of the interactive materials, like some of the videos that we post up, many of the pamphlets, or even some of the coloring pages for your kids, that all goes into education. And the main goal of the education portion in fire prevention is community partnership. Us raising the awareness and teaching or refreshing our citizens of their fire safety skills, analyzing problems, and again, really developing that partnership between the community and the fire department. Also implementing plans and evaluating progresses. It's our hope that through the community safety programs that you would go home and not leave ignition sources unattended. Have clear exits, and again, just really taking what we talk about and practicing it at home to again reduce the risk of a fire or in a worst case scenario injury or death. Then we move on to engineering, which is using physical science to reduce the impact or eliminate the risk of fire. So how does that? So what does that look like in your place of business, right? So your sprinkler system, right? That is equipment, again, that limits the spread of fire if one were to occur. Also, general housekeeping requirements, keeping the exits safe, right? This also leads into code development. So what goes into new construction to ensure a delay in fire spread, or through other fire resistant materials. And after all these standards or codes have been presented and implemented, that's where the enforcement portion comes into it, right? You can't ensure these safeguards, right, that we put into place, like your sprinklers, smoke detectors, right? You can't ensure that they're working properly without the follow-up, without that enforcement portion of the 3 E's. So essentially what enforcement is, it's a system in place designated to adopt the adherence of the code and ensure that these standards are being upheld through inspections and certifying officials to ensure that these inspections are conducted to standard. As in, you wouldn't want to have someone come in without the appropriate level of qualifications, certifications, inspecting these systems and any manufactured any engineered efforts. Now you may be asking is, how do we enforce the fire codes in the village of Itasca, right? Well, the fire prevention director is responsible for the enforcement of code in Itasca. So in Itasca, we inspect every commercial and multi-dwelling building biannually, meaning every 2 years. We carry this out through qualified individuals that will issue issue warning and provide you the necessary resources to ensure that that the structure gets up to code. And if that were to fail, then it would step up to a citation, and if needed, condemnment, right? Which again, that's not the goal of the code enforcement, but it is a last resort tool to ensure that the engineered safeguards are implemented and maintained. Now, how are the current fire codes, applied to current and new occupancies? Well, through the code enforcement, Itasca code enforcement, any anytime that a building is being built or a remodel in residential dwellings, a permit must be filed with the city, where depending on what's being done, will require an inspection. Also plans, and also plans for review to ensure that that the updated code is being installed, or these safeguards are being installed in the respective building. Now, are there any local organizations that determine the fire resistance of building materials used? No, we actually do not have any. We actually don't have any fire resistance organizations that do that for us. What we do follow is IBC guidelines, International Building Code, and the NFPA guidance. Excuse me. Now, how do fire tests and ratings apply to the inspection code enforcement? Well, the engineered controls must be inspected to ensure that the safeguards are being maintained. What's the point of having a fire suppression system if the fire suppression system is neglected, or not installed properly, or even broken, right? We can't. We have to ensure that the safeguards put in place are in good order. All right, so what are the now we're moving on to what are the some characteristics of unsafe structures. A lot of the times unsafe structures are exactly what you would think they are unkept, disheveled, usually abandoned buildings. There's a saying that if it looks good, it is good. It probably is good. If the building has overgrown weeds, grass, or any sort of type of plants, again, that can add to fueling the fire. Again, inadequate circuits or electrical. Again, potential issues, and again, abandoned structures. Have, if something were to happen, there's no fire announcement, like through smoke detectors and things like that, to alert someone to reach out. Either put out the fire before it spreads, or to reach out to the local fire department, right? Again, and it shortens the time. That damage can be contained. So the buildings that pose the most the constructed buildings that pose the most significant hazard for conflagration and fire spread no longer actually exist in Itasca. As of the last 5 years, we removed the condemned, unsafe, abandoned buildings, which was a huge win for the department. Though the the newest, I guess, if you'd want to call it that, building with the highest significant hazard are the buildings located near some of our neighboring cities that again have unkept fields, rubbish or trash, and that again could, if something were to happen, could not only spread through, but then reach either a residential or a commercial dwelling that again are within the city's border. Thankfully, all of our gas stations are actually not located near any of those areas. Right? You would think that that the gas stations would probably be one of the higher risk, but in our case it is not, because again they are located in areas with low ignition sources, and there's other safeguards put into place again through the zoning of where they can be, where they were built, and again the building materials and other safeguards that go into a higher risk occupancy location. At this time, there are no plans to review structural controls for improvement of safety and unsafe structures in our area. As mentioned, we were successful in removing those buildings. But again, we are still collecting data to see where improvements can be made. Now, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out via email to myself, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Hopefully, this period of instruction was helpful to further understanding what the fire department does, our goals, how we go about achieving those goals. Thank you, and have a safe and wonderful evening.